The movie starts in a prison in California. It is the year 1968, and a band plays lively music to the inmates while waiting for their singer. Inside the woodshop, we see John Cash, also known as Johnny Cash, a well-known musician and the lead singer of the band, slowly running his fingers on a circular saw. The scene changes to the year 1944 in Arkansas when John Cash was just a 10-year-old boy, and was then called JR, which is his biological name. He is close with his older brother, Jack. Jack picks 5 times more than John and knows all the stories in the Bible, while John knows all songs in the Highway Heavenly Hymns. Their family is impoverished, and so, the whole family works in their cotton farm. While they are working, his father asks his mother if she is ready to unload her father's piano for them to sell. She says that she will not sell it and adds that he is the one drinking every weekend. He kicks a bucket and they all go silent. She sings a Christian song to which John joins in. Him and his brother go to a woodshop as Jack is paid to cut a large wood in half. Here, we see a similar circular saw John was caressing at the beginning. John asks Jack if they can go now. Jack says he has to finish his job and that John should go and catch a fish. He does what his brother told him. As he goes back, his father sees him and asks where he has been. He harshly gets him in the car and they go to a hospital. Jack lies on a bed with lots of blood lost. He was greatly injured from the woodshop earlier. He says his last words to his brother before passing away with his eyes open. John's father is furious. They lost all their money to his late son's expenses. He lashes out his fury to John, saying that the devil took the wrong son. John cries on the bed and the camera shifts to his bedroom door. The door opens and we see his younger sister saying that he's gonna miss his bus. John Cash is now almost the same age as we first see him in the movie. She sees his name tag on his Air Force uniform and asks why is there a John there and not his real name, JR, to which he replies that letters don't cut it in the Air Force, and that they told him to pick a name. His mother gives him her book, The Highway Heavenly Hymns, and he says his goodbyes to the whole family. When it was his father's turn to say goodbye to John, he simply said that he would miss his bus. In Germany, John buys a guitar before going to the Air Force camp. He writes a song at work while looking at pictures of his beloved, Vivian. In his free time, he calls her and talks about his plans on marrying her. She says that they haven't seen each other in 2 years and that they have only dated for a month. She adds that her father thinks that there's something wrong with John. He promises her that they will have a nice family and future together. The camp watches a documentary about the Folsom prison. John sees how brutal it is and composes a song based on it. It is now the year 1955. John wakes up on a bed with Vivian on his side. They now reside together in Memphis and have a baby. John no longer works at the Air Force but at the home equipment company wherein he tries to sell their products. As he gets dressed up to work, Vivian asks him to think about her father's offer for a job. He says that he is really trying to sell something. He goes door to door in their neighborhood but, with no luck, does not sell anything to anyone. He goes into the town and notices 2 men, one with a guitar, rushing to a recording studio. He follows them and takes a look through the window. He sees photos of musicians hanging on the wall. The 2 men he followed are part of a band that starts to perform. He goes in the back door to get a closer view. The man in the studio sees him and closes the door on his face. John practices with his guitar along with 2 other men just outside their house. Vivian seems worried as she looks at him from the table while playing cards with other women. John looks over to a nearby woman yelling Jack. It was the same name as his late brother. He starts to sing the lead part of a Christian song. Vivian looks at him again, this time holding back tears. He looks happily at his wife and she fakes a smile before walking out and running into a room. John goes after her. Vivian locks the door but soon opens it for John. She cries inside and pleads to him that she wants to go home to her father. She adds that her father's job offer to him in San Antonio is still available. He punches the wall behind him in exasperation and says that his band, Luther and Marshall, is right there in Memphis. Vivian ridicules them, saying that his bandmates are just 2 mechanics who can hardly play. She tells that he has his wife, baby, and another one on the way living in a dump in which they can't even make rent, and hands him their notice of eviction. John sings in their basement about leaving a woman. Vivian hears it without his knowledge and takes it personally, thinking that he hates her. John waits and introduces himself as a singer to Sam Phillips, the owner of the recording studio he saw before, and says that he and his band would like to record some songs. Sam tells him that cutting a record costs $4. John asks if the people in the pictures on his wall also pay $4, to which Sam replies that they are on his label. John asks how he could get on his label. Sam replies that he can contact his secretary, and maybe he can audition next month, but John replies that he can't wait that long. John and his band auditions with all the members wearing black since it is the only color of shirt they all have. They sing the same Christian song we heard them sing earlier. Sam seems bored with it and stops them in the middle of the song and asks for a different song. He adds that he can't market gospel because it doesn't sell. John asks if the issue is the gospel or the way he sings it. Sam answers firmly that it is both. John asks what is wrong with the way he sings it. Sam says that he doesn't believe him. John restates this and says to Sam that he's saying that he doesn't believe in God. His bandmates try to stop him from further questioning Sam. John doesn't budge and continues to say that they have come all the way there to perform for him, and he just tells them that he thinks he doesn't believe in God. Sam explains that the song was already sung the same way as they sang it 100 before. John, still trying to prove his point, says that he didn't even let them bring it home. Sam then asks him if that is the song that he would sing if he was hit by a truck and he had time to sing only one song that people would remember, would tell God what he felt about his time on earth, and would sum him up. He asks if he'd rather sing something real and something he felt because that is the kind of song people would want to hear, the kind that truly saves the people. He goes to say that it has nothing to do with believing in God, but rather believing in oneself. John says that he has some songs he wrote when he was in the Air Force and asks him if he has anything against the Air Force, to which Sam replies no. John says that he himself does have something against the Air Force. His bandmates warn him that whatever he is about to play, they have never heard of before. He starts to sing nevertheless, they follow his voice. Sam seems to be pleased. John comes home to Vivian with his hair and clothes wet from the rain. He pretends to be sad, saying first that Sam didn't like his gospel. Vivian thinks this to be the end of it. John then tells her that they liked his song and that they made a record of it. Vivian smiles and hugs him in glee. John goes to the radio station with his record to ask them to play his song. The radio man approves of it and asks him to flip it in the record player. Nervous and not knowing how to properly handle it, John breaks the record. He panics and calls the studio. He goes there panicking and saying that he wants to record a new one. Sam calms him down and tells that they have 1,000 copies of it. John calms down and takes a handful of records home. Vivian asks him when they are going to talk about his tour, but before he could reply, John hears his song playing on the radio. He gets excited and turns the volume up. Vivian does not join his excitement and tells him that their baby is sleeping. He turns it off but hears the neighbor's radio playing his song. He carries the baby outside and sways her to the song in joy. Vivian smiles softly at them, but her smile slowly fades as she stares blankly. John and his band, along with Jerry Lee Lewis and other artists, are in a show in Texas. There, he encounters June Carter, a fellow artist who came from a family of musicians. As both were in a hurry, June's dress suddenly gets tangled up in John's guitar strap before his time to perform. June keeps the host and audience busy with her jokes while she and John untangle her dress. Finally, June goes to the stage and continues her jokes while John gets himself ready to perform. John laughs at her jokes and watches her as she goes away. He doesn't see that June also looks at him. It is now his band's time to perform. They are called Johnny Cash and the Tennessee 2. They perform and the crowd loves them. He calls Vivian after the show to share his enthusiasm about the show. Vivian asks him where he is in a monotonous tone. John continues to share his excitement, but Vivian seems to be busy with their kids and ends the call immediately. John watches June as she performs on stage. June sings with charm and great energy. John admires her from above the backstage. A fellow artist sits there and compliments John for his performance. He tells John about June's musical background. John smiles and continues to watch June's performance. He stops by a restaurant after the show and sees June in there as well. He sees her on a telephone talking with who seems to be her partner. He sits next to her belongings and the two see each other. He asks her if she lost her voice. June replies that she did and compliments his voice. He humbly smiles and shows her a picture of his wife and daughter named Roseanne. June says that she's got a little girl named Carlene about the same age as his daughter. John tells June that he used to look at her in magazines back when he was in service, but then quickly clarifies that he liked her music so that she doesn't get the wrong idea. He tells her that he and his brother listened to all of her songs and liked it when she would sing alone. She replies that they are the only ones who think so, as everyone, including her family, thinks that her sister, Anita, is the one with the good voice. She asks him how long he is going to be on the tour. He replies that he is going to be on tour for another couple of weeks. She tells him that he should tell his brother to tune in and she would sing for him. He appreciates it and tells her that he has already passed. She apologizes and asks if they were close. He says that he hasn't talked about him for so long. He used to talk about him all the time after he passed away, but then people grew tired, so he just stopped. There is a moment of silence as June looks at him, concerned. She asks him if he is tired, to which he replies yes. She tells him that it will slow down. He holds back his tears. She says her goodbyes and goes off. John and Vivian now live in a bigger house. Vivian and John's sister prepare a casserole. Vivian notices that John is not around helping and goes down to the basement to him. He seems to have just woken up. He looks really tired. Vivian says that he should start living his life there with them when he comes home before he leaves again. He says that maybe he can leave at a later date and adds that he is happy there at his home with her. She looks at him, speechless and with tears seemingly forming in her eyes as he goes up to light a cigarette. She says that the letters John receives are mostly from girls, about half of which are minors, and are obscene. John interrupts her from going into the details and says that the letters are nonsense. He then tells her about a similar encounter in real life wherein girls were running and screaming for Carl and Roy. This time, it is Vivian who interrupts him. She tells him that she doesn't want to talk about the tour even though she is the one that brought the topic up. She adds that her new rule is when he comes back home, she wants them to go talk about regular things. John is triggered and has an outburst. He said he already has enough rules to follow. He brings up that he already gave Vivian everything she wanted and asks what more she wants. She cries while answering loudly that she wants him and everything that he promised her. He rebuts that what if he can't give her that. She shows a sarcastic, small smile and leaves the room. It is now the time of the tour caravan. John drives a car with his fellow artists, including June in the back seat. His eyes travel to June's feet. Jerry Lee in the passenger seat notices this. June asks John if he has seen the charts as his song was on it. He answers that he hasn't seen it yet. Jerry Lee suddenly says that everyone in the car is going to hell for the songs that they sing. June asks him if she, too, is going to hell. He replies that she won't go to hell because she's beautiful. She says that she is sleepy and smiles. He asks her to feel his heart and grabs her hand. She doesn't want to, but he still insists, so John stops him. John escorts June to her room. She stops her before he goes out to give him the Billboard chart wherein his song was ranked 14th. She also gives him a book that she just finished reading. She says that she always gives a book after she finishes it. John suddenly leans in to kiss her. June stops him and tells him that she just went through a terrible divorce and that the world is judging her. She adds that it looks like he has a nice family. He apologizes, saying that it just happened. She doesn't believe his words and sarcastically says that he should try taking credit for his actions once in a while. John leans in again to kiss her, and she stops him again. Johnny is intoxicated with alcohol as he goes to Luther. A fellow artist offers him to enjoy himself and says that Elvis takes them. John accepts and intakes it with alcohol. The boys blow up a branch of a tree just for fun. John's band now has a drummer. Their band is now called Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Three. As always, the crowd loves them. A woman goes in front of the audience and locks eyes with John. Elvis compliments him after his performance. While smoking backstage, John watches how Elvis interacts with the audience. John intakes the he was given earlier in his dressing room. Audrey Parks, the woman in front of John's audience earlier, goes to see him and kisses him. He kisses her back. We see John tired when he comes home and with other girls after his shows. He tries to write a song while laying down and intoxicated. He sees a hallucination of his late brother, Jack. He goes to bed with his wife and daughter but can't sleep. He goes outside to finish composing his song. June shops for a fishing tackle in West Virginia. Some notice her and are fans. She spots John holding 2 children's books and smirks. She grabs a fishing tackle and a lady working there approaches her. She tells her that her parents are good Christians and brings up June's divorce with Carl Smith. The lady adds that divorce is an abomination. June is dismayed and apologizes for letting her down. She goes to John and laughs at him. He says that he missed his daughter's birthday, so he wants to give her something more like a dollhouse. June offers to help him. They both go fishing at the lake nearby. John asks June how to use the fishing rod as it is fancier than the ones he used before, and June goes close to him to teach him. After he finishes his performance, John asks June to sing with him live on stage. June refuses, but John insists and even asks the audience to encourage June. She comes to the stage and asks John what song they are going to sing. He suggests one of her duet songs, but she refuses since she recorded it with her ex-husband and suggests one of his songs. John wins as none of his songs are duets, and so June is forced to sing. She sees the lady at the store that disapproved of her and frowns. John gives her a kiss on the cheek and she is taken aback. She runs off stage and goes to her dressing room. John runs after her. He forces her door open and finds her crying. He says that it's just a song, and June tells him to get away from her. He throws a tantrum in his dressing room and breaks his guitar and furniture. Again, he intakes with alcohol. June goes to the venue of her upcoming show with John and Jerry Lee only to see the boys drunk. She says that she is not going to look after them. John repeats what she said mockingly and June rebuts that he has a wife to do that for him. He asks her what if he doesn't. She says that there are too many what ifs in his sentence. He says that there is only one and the boys laugh. June is offended and throws the empty alcohol bottles at them and tells him to not talk to her like that. She says that they are all going to blow the tour and that they can't walk in a line. With him singing the song Walk the Line in the background, we see Johnny Cash's fame and money grow, and he buys properties everywhere. He looks more tired than before. On the other hand, June marries a stock car driver. It is now 1964, and John resides with his family in a big house with a pool in California. He sees a falcon and rushes to his daughters to tell them this. Vivian shows writing to John and asks what it is. He replies that it is the letter he wrote to Bob Dylan on the plane. Vivian says that he wrote it on an airsickness bag. His father scoffs and tells him that maybe he ought to try sleeping at night and eating. John goes silent. He goes to get alcohol and asks Vivian if she is going with him that night, to which she agrees. John answers the telephone but puts it on hold so that he can intake his with alcohol. It is Bob Dylan who called. John asks him to inform the people that he and Vivian are coming. He also asks if Bob knows whether or not June is coming. John sees June at the event and asks her if she thinks her husband at the moment would last, as this is her third one, and June immediately goes up to leave. Vivian tries to stop him but he chases after June. She tells him that he doesn't look good. John tells her she looks nice. June says that her marriage right now is not looking good. John admits that he is a little happy to know that. He says that he wants to tour again with her, but June says she can't since she has 2 growing girls. He says that she would be working for him and that she doesn't have to worry about anything and that she can go home if her kids got sick and she would still get paid. June agrees. As they perform together, John sees that his wife looks somehow disapproving and forces a smile as she watches in the audience. John introduces June to his parents and daughters. June greets them, but Vivian firmly tells June to stay clear from her children. John and June still sing together in 1965. After their show, John offers June a drink. They share an intimate moment in her room. Carlene, her daughter, calls June while crying because she had a fight with her sister. June sees John taking large doses of his drug. She feels guilty for what they did and tells him that she can't do it. John's addiction to drugs and alcohol worsens. John comes late to his own show with June. June notices that he is under the influence and is annoyed. He disrespects the drummer, forgets his lyrics, kicks some of the equipment, and collapses on the stage. Luther and Marshall go to John's room to tell him that the tour has been canceled and that they have bought him a ticket home. June also comes to his room to check on him. John asks her to tell him she doesn't love him. She does so, and he says that she's a liar. He frantically looks for his drugs, but June already got rid of all of them. June cries as she drives her car to her house. John smokes on the way across the border to get a new supply of drugs and alcohol before his flight. June composes a song about her pain. The authorities get hold of John and his at the airport, and he is sent to jail. He goes home and explains himself to Vivian, but to no success. He hangs photos of his band, including those of June, on their wall even though Vivian tells him not to. Vivian gets a hold of June's picture and smashes it. She yells and cries at John, and they both have an argument that leaves Vivian crying on the floor while John holds her down. John goes silent when he realizes that their children see them fighting. Vivian takes their children and leaves John. A year later in Nashville, John stays with a musician whom he orders around. He is still not sober. He asks him if June has called back yet, and the musician informs him that they have cut his telephone due to insufficient funds. Although cashless, John manages to go to June's house by walking. He asks her to marry him. She calls him pathetic and asks where the old John has gone. She tells him to love himself so that they can get back to work. At a bar, a guy named Jack tells a joke to John. John walks in the rain while drunk. He collapses in the middle of the woods near a house that is being sold. He bought the house and is doing better now. He calls June and updates her on his life. He lies that he is not taking his pills anymore. His parents come to his place on Thanksgiving. His father mocks him for not using the truck that is stuck in his land. June's family also comes and he introduces them to his parents. His father mocks him again for not having any tools for cooking. He sees John secretly taking his drugs and drinking alcohol. John asks his father about his house. June's father answers that it's a fine, big house. John's father compares it to a bigger house he saw on TV. John looks upset again because of his father's behavior. He suddenly brings up his late brother. He brings up how he was only 12 years old when his father asked him where he had been after his brother died. His father asks him again the same question, but John turns the question back to him. He tells John that he quit drinking a long time ago. He continues to ask John about his and how they could kill him, to which John rebuts that a car wreck could also kill. He pushes him more and tells him that he has nothing. His guests leave as he tries to move the truck in his land that his father pointed out earlier. June's mother tells her to talk to him. June takes care of John after he falls down with his truck. John wakes up, angrily looking for his pills. He sees June's father downstairs. A man comes to his house looking for him. This man is his supply for June and her parents shoo the man away to keep him sober. June brings John berries. He asks her to stay and calls her an angel. He tells her that he has done very bad things and adds that his father was right, that it should have been him on the saw, not his brother who would have done a lot of good things. He says that he's nothing. June breaks down and tells him that God has given him a second chance. They both embrace each other while crying. Later, they both go to church together. John reads a letter from his fans. He saw one from a fan in Folsom Prison. He opens many more letters from various prisons and seems to be moved and motivated to perform again. A man from the studio says that everyone has gone electric, yet John still wants to play the same old country music for a bunch of prisoners. He even mocks his black suit. They tell him that his fans are Christians and that they wouldn't like him to sing for sinners to cheer them up. John replies that if that is the case, then they are not Christians at all. They still don't approve of him singing in a prison. John firmly tells them that he, June, and the boys would be performing in Folsom Prison. They could listen to the tapes and toss it if they wish to. We go back to the first scene wherein John is caressing a circular saw with his band waiting for him outside. The warden suggests he do something spiritual so that the inmates won't be reminded that they are in prison. John goes up on the stage and reminds the inmates they are recorded live and thanks them. He relates himself to the inmates before singing. They are full of enthusiasm as he performs. He adds a few new lyrics dedicated to them. He wakes up June in the middle of the night while on the bus to ask for her hand. She asks him how it is going to work. He says that she is scared of being in love, losing control, and being overshadowed by him. She tells him that it is 2 a.m. and they're on a bus. John asks again and June looks at him with a serious face implying no. He says that it was the last time he's going to ask. June doesn't talk to him after that. They continue their tour in Canada in 1968. John sings the song that June wrote. He asks her to sing with him, and she obliges. John pauses his singing and asks June for her hand on stage again. He tells her a touching message that makes her tear up. She finally says yes, and they share a passionate kiss. Both of their families bond. Even John's father plays with his daughters. The movie ends with a narration. John's recording at the Folsom prison became one of the most popular recordings of all time. John and June got married and settled into his lake house. 2 years later, they had a son named John Carter Cash. For the next 35 years, the two toured and played for the world.